The afternoon sun was soft and golden, spilling through the bamboo fence of the small house where Huyen and Maya lived. The air was peaceful, the smell of rice cooking, the sound of baby barking at butterflies, and Maya's laughter echoing through the garden. But that peace shattered with a sudden, harsh knock on the door. Huyen wiped her hands on her apron and went to open it, thinking it might be the postman or a neighbor. Yet the sight that greeted her froze her in place. Standing there, dressed in dark clothes, was an older woman with sharp eyes and trembling lips. Mrs. Lan, Dee's ex-mother-in-law. Huyen, the woman said coldly, her voice carrying both bitterness and pain. So this is where you've been hiding. For a moment, Huyen could not find her voice. Memories of Dee's past, of the marriage that had ended in quiet tragedy, came flooding back. She had never met this woman before, but she knew who she was. Please, come in, Huyen finally said, trying to keep her voice steady. Mrs. Lan stepped inside, her gaze sweeping over the humble home, the bamboo table, the little shoes by the door, the photograph of Maya smiling beside Dee. Each detail seemed to deepen the anger in her eyes. So this is what you've done, she whispered, her tone trembling. You took my daughter's husband, and now you live here like a happy family. Huyen's heart sank. She could feel the storm gathering behind those words. Madam, she said softly, I never meant to hurt anyone. Things were not as simple as they seemed. Please, let's sit down and talk. But Mrs. Lan's face hardened. Talk. There's nothing left to say. Because of you, my daughter lost everything. Her home, her husband, her peace. Maya peeked from behind the curtain, frightened. Bibi growled quietly near the door. The sky outside began to darken, as if even the weather could sense the tension inside the small house. Huyen stood still, her hands trembling slightly. Dee was away in the nearby town, helping a friend fix a roof, and she was alone to face the storm that had just stepped through her door. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. The afternoon peace was gone, replaced by the shadow of something heavy, something about to break. The wind outside began to rise, rustling the leaves of the guava tree as if echoing the storm that had entered Huyen's home. Inside, the air grew tense, thick with words unspoken and years of bitterness. Mrs. Lan's eyes glimmered with tears, not just of anger, but of pain that had lived too long. She looked at Huyen as if searching for a reason to hate her more deeply. You think I don't know what kind of woman you are, she spat. You waited until my daughter was weak, until her marriage fell apart, and then you took what wasn't yours. Huyen's lips trembled. That's not true, she said quietly, her voice almost lost in the sound of the rain beginning to fall. I never took anyone's place. Dee and we met long after everything ended. Mrs. Lan slammed her hand on the table, sending a cup rolling onto the floor. Lies, all of it. You ruined my daughter's life. The crash startled Maya, who ran to her mother's side, clutching Huyen's arm tightly. Mom, who is she? The little girl whispered. Huyen knelt and held Maya close. It's all right, sweetie, she whispered softly, though her voice shook. Go inside the room and stay there, okay? Maya obeyed, but not before glancing back with wide, frightened eyes. When Huyen stood again, her face was pale but calm. Mrs. Lan, she said gently, I understand your anger. I know you've suffered, but please, not in front of the child. The older woman hesitated for a second, her rage flickering into confusion. But grief quickly returned, twisting her expression. You talk like you understand pain, she said bitterly. But you don't. You don't know what it's like to watch your family fall apart, to lose a son-in-law, a daughter, a grandchild's laughter, all gone because of you." Huyen's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't argue. She knew that sometimes pain spoke louder than truth. The storm outside grew heavier, rain pelting the roof like 1,000 small knocks. Inside, two women stood facing each other, one burning with resentment, the other trembling but steady, trying to protect not just herself but the fragile peace of her home. Huyen took a slow breath, hoping to find the right words to calm the storm. But before she could speak, Mrs. Lan took a step forward, her hand brushing the edge of the kitchen counter, where a small fruit knife lay gleaming under the dim light. And suddenly, fear filled the room. The rain outside had turned into a downpour, hammering the tin roof with a furious rhythm. Inside, Huyen's breath caught in her throat as she saw the glint of metal in Mrs. Lan's trembling hand. "Please," Huyen said softly, her voice barely audible, "put that down." But Mrs. Lan's eyes were distant, clouded with pain and confusion. "Do you know what it feels like," she whispered, "to watch your daughter waste away in tears every night? To hear her curse herself for losing him?" Her hand shook, the knife catching the light. "You don't deserve happiness while my daughter suffers." Huyen stepped back slowly, her heart pounding in her chest. "I never wanted anyone to suffer," she said, her voice breaking. "If I could give her peace, I would." The storm outside howled, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Then, a sudden noise. The sound of Maya crying from the other room. "Mom!" The cry jolted Mrs. Lan back to the present. For a moment, her eyes flickered, the fury faltered, replaced by confusion. But it was too late. The small knife slipped from her trembling hand and clattered to the floor. Huyen moved instinctively, stepping forward to protect Maya. The knife nicked her arm, leaving a thin line of blood. Pain flared, but she didn't care. She caught the older woman's wrist gently, saying, "Please, enough. This isn't who you are." Mrs. Lan gasped, as if waking from a nightmare. "What have I done?" she whispered, her voice breaking. Then the front door burst open. A figure appeared, drenched from the rain, his eyes scanning the room. It was the strange man, the same one who had once come to look for Huyen weeks ago. He took in the scene in an instant. The knife on the floor, Huyen bleeding, Maya crying. Without hesitation, he rushed forward, catching Mrs. Lan by the shoulders before she could move again. "Calm down, madam," he said firmly. "You'll hurt someone." The older woman froze, her body shaking, tears falling freely now. I didn't mean to. Huyen stood still, holding her bleeding arm, her eyes wide in shock and gratitude. She remembered that face, the man who had once appeared mysteriously, searching for her, speaking words she couldn't fully understand. And now, like fate itself had sent him, he had returned, just in time. The storm outside raged on, but inside the small house, time seemed to stand still. The man soaped, breathing heavily slowly helped Mrs. Lan to sit down. His voice was calm, steady, almost gentle. "It's all right now," he said, placing a small towel over her trembling hands. "No one is hurt badly. Take a deep breath." Mrs. Lan was sobbing, her tears mixing with the rain on her face. "I didn't come to kill her," she whispered, shaking her head. "I just wanted to talk. But when I saw her, I thought of my daughter's pain." Everything came rushing back. The man nodded, understanding. "Pain does that. It blinds us," he said quietly. "But look around, there's still kindness here. Don't let hatred take that away." "Huyen, clutching her arm, finally found her voice. "Thank you. You came just in time." The man turned to her, his eyes filled with concern. "You should treat that wound," he said softly. "It's bleeding." He tore a piece of cloth from his sleeve and gently wrapped it around her arm. His touch was firm but careful. Huyen looked at him closely, trying to recall where she had seen him before. The memory surfaced the day he came asking about her, claiming to be an old neighbor. But there was something deeper in his gaze now, something that didn't feel like a stranger's. "Who are you, really?" she asked quietly. He hesitated for a moment, then looked down. "Someone who once made a promise," he said. "A promise to protect those who didn't deserve to suffer." Outside, thunder rolled across the dark sky. Maya peeked out from behind the curtain, her small eyes red from crying. The man turned toward her and gave a faint smile. "Don't worry, little one," he said gently. "Everything's safe now." And in that brief silence between storms, Huyen realized something. Fate hadn't just sent this man to save her. It had brought back a piece of the past that still had meaning, though she didn't yet understand why. By the time the rain began to ease, the small house felt heavy with silence. Drops of water slid down the window pane, and the sound of Maya's quiet breathing filled the air. The man helped Mrs. Lan to her feet. She was exhausted, her eyes hollow from guilt. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I've done enough harm for one lifetime." Huyen, though still trembling, stepped closer. Her voice was soft but steady. "Hatred only brings more pain, Aunt Lan. Please, just go home. I've forgiven you long ago." The words seemed to break something inside the old woman. Her knees gave way, and she covered her face with both hands. The man caught her before she fell. "Go," he said gently. "Don't look back. Leave them in peace." When Mrs. Lan finally left, the door creaked shut behind her. Only the faint smell of wet earth and smoke lingered in the air. Huyen sat down slowly, her eyes glistening with both relief and exhaustion. "I thought it was over for me," she murmured. The man gave her a faint, knowing smile. "It's never over when there's someone still willing to protect you." He turned to go, but Maya ran toward him, holding out a small hand. "Mister, thank you for saving my mom," she said in her tiny voice. He crouched down, brushing her damp hair from her face. "Be strong for her, okay? She needs your smile." As he stood up, Huyen finally found the courage to ask, "Please, tell me your name." He looked back, eyes soft but distant. "You already know it," he said quietly. "You just don't remember yet." And with that, he stepped into the misty road, his shadow fading into the soft light of dawn. Huyen stood at the doorway, clutching Maya close, watching him disappear. The world around them felt calm again. The rain had stopped, and in its place came the first song of morning birds. Perhaps fate had not only sent a savior that night, perhaps it had sent a message that kindness never forgets, and love, no matter how lost, always finds its way home. In life, storms do not always come from the sky. Sometimes they come from people's hearts. Huyen's story reminds us that even when cruelty and resentment return to our doorstep, we can still choose compassion instead of revenge. The strange man who appeared when Dee was gone showed that help can come from the most unexpected places. He didn't fight with anger or violence. He simply acted with courage and kindness, protecting what was good and innocent. Through this moment of danger, Huyen learned that forgiveness is not weakness. It is the strength to end a cycle of hatred that has gone on too long. By forgiving her ex-mother-in-law, she freed not only herself, but also the old woman who had been trapped in her own bitterness for years. And in that small, quiet home, with Maya's laughter echoing once again, we see the true meaning of peace. It doesn't come from the absence of tragedy, but from the presence of love, compassion, and courage to start again.